Excuse me. Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness for Darlene J. Clark. Thank you for watching. Thanks for your support. Today we have a story about the evil twin brothers of Pulaski, Tennessee. I just came upon a story today. It kind of shocked me. And to know that one of the brothers is out of jail. He served his time. I hope and pray he learned his lesson. Hope and pray that he don't do these things ever again. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Hello there, our bucket list. You, hello there, Jackie. Good to see you too. Thanks for coming. Hello, everyone. Let's stop that brand. Just keep showing her there. I always like to start off with the Bible verses, which y'all know I do. Matthew 18, verse 6. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Isaiah 1:17. Oh, don't do that. Trying to change something else. Okay. Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Try to get the scroll down because I'm going to do the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is the use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Hope y'all are doing well today. Like I said, I came upon this story today, and I felt like I needed to get out there. Like I said, one of the twins have been released from prison as of, I think, 2016. We'll go over that in a few minutes. I hope he learned his lesson and is not turning into his evil ways as he did before. Let me share the screen. This is horrendous now. I need to put on there before I start, though. I need to put on there trigger warning because it definitely will be trigger warning. Like my trigger warning's not there no more. Gotta create it. So let me create the trigger warning. So give me a few seconds. I think I need it all in caps. Don't y'all agree? I'm writing it several times. That's what's taking me so long. Go ahead to the bottom of the screen. Add banner. Here we go. There we go. I hope that y'all be able to support that. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get back to my YouTube on my these things ever again. Okay, let me shut that down. There we go. Thank you so much, Jackie. This vicious 1980s murders committed by Tennessee brothers, the Bondurant boys, to be featured on Evil Twins. So yes, they were featured on Evil Twins segment. This is Pat Bondurant left and his twin brother Pete in recent photos from the Tennessee Department of Corrections. It's horrid what these two guys had done. Hugh Pete Bondurant Jr. and his brother Kenneth Patterson. Okay, here's where it says the vicious 1986 murder of a young Ardmore, Alabama mother by twin brothers in Giles County, Tennessee will be featured on an upcoming episode of Investigation Discovery show The Evil Twins, which they already televised that. So if y'all got Investigation Discovery, or maybe y'all can find it at YouTube. So we're started all over again. QP, let's see, when was this? So we need to make sure this was 2013, so it's been 10 years, 11 years now. That's September, so September be 11 years. So they're no longer 58, okay? So put that in mind. QP Bondurant Jr. and his brother Kenneth Patterson Pat Bondurant, known as the Bondurant Boys, are now 58 years old. The brothers also were convicted in two murders they committed separately. So when he committed another murder separately, not with the brother, I can't believe he is out of jail. Pat, in the 1986 beaten to death his co-worker Ronnie Gaines. Pete was charged with helping his brother dismember and burn Gaines' body. And Pete in the slaying of his girlfriend Terry Lynn Clark, also in 1986. Sick. We were commissioned by the Discovery Channel to produce this particular episode for Evil Twins, said Lauren Fleming, associate producer of Sirens Media. The crew conducted interviews and shot footage in Giles County and are currently working to gather background information and additional film footage for the twins' trials. We're smack dab in the middle of preparing for next season, so we don't have an air date yet, Fleming said. It will likely come out by the end of the year. Another episode of The Evil Twins featured the murder trial of Betty Wilson, who was convicted of killing her eye doctor husband in Huntsville, I believe Huntsville, Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. Her twin was charged with helping in the murder, but she was acquitted. The initial arrest of the twins in 1990 shocked residents in Giles County, Tennessee, and Limestone County, Alabama. So that's what county Ardmore, Alabama is in. The details of 24-year-old Gwen Duggar's murder were horrific, and tales soon emerged that the boys had a mansion-like following of young people who came to Pat's Elkton farmhouse for drugs. See, there's the house right here, y'all. The Giles County, Tennessee farmhouse where Gwen Duggar was murdered, shown above, is no longer standing in its original location. I don't know where, if it was moved to. They didn't say it's torn down. They said it's no longer in that original. Their appearances also didn't match the image some people might have of serial killers. The initial booking photos showed men weighing about 350 pounds each and Pat in plastic-rimmed eyeglasses. The brothers were convicted in 1991 of the murder of 24-year-old Gwen Duggar of Ardmore, after a sensational trial in which Pat's wife Denise testified against them. Duggar's body was never found, but Denise Bajurant testified for brothers that the brothers raped, tortured, and shot the young mother before burning her body in a 55-gallon drum and dumping the ashes in a creek near Pat's rental farmhouse near the Shady Lawn truck stop. The lack of a body is one reason the twins received only 25-year sentences. Later, the brothers went to trial individually for Gaines' murder after charred bones were unearthed in the front yard of their parents' Giles County home. Pete was also sentenced to 15 years in prison for the 1986 murder of Terry Lynn Clark. The Bajurants are serving their time at Riverview Maximum Security Prison in Tennessee. And they killed these two. How come they... See, according to the Tennessee Department of Corrections website, Pete is scheduled for release in 2018 and Pat in 2070. They have been denied parole numerous times. But I've got evidence to show when Pete was actually let out. Updated at 8:31 a.m. September 5th to clarify a cut line to say the house was moved from its original location. So Alabama.com reporter Kelly Kazek for the finder. So we'll go off with that one. The house looks creepy, don't it? Okay, here is where one of the Bondurant boys released from prison. Why was he released when he was actually, his brother helped him in the murder? Why? One of the Bondurant twins, convicted in the 86 murder of an Ardmore mother, had been released from prison after serving only 26 years, despite being convicted of 2 murders and a dismemberment. See, even a dismemberment. Pete Bondurant, 61, was released from the Tennessee Department of Corrections the day after Christmas 2016. DOC records show. Pete and his twin brother in crime, Pat Bondurant, widely known as the Bondurant Boys, were convicted in the 1986 murder of Gwen Duggar, a 24-year-old single mother who had gone to Pat's rented farmhouse near the Shady Lawn truck stop in Elkton, Tennessee, a home that received many visitors. Testimonies at the brothers' trial revealed they had a mansion-like following of people who came to the farmhouse to obtain drugs. Pat's wife Denise testified she witnessed the two rape, torture, and shoot Duggar before burning her body in a 55-gallon drum and then dumping her ashes in a nearby creek. Pete was also convicted in the 1986 murder of Terry Lynn Clark, for which he was sentenced to 15 years. The twins were also tried separately in the 86 fatal beating of Pat's co-worker Ronnie Gaines. His burned bones were found buried in the yard of the Giles County home of the twins' parents. Boy, so there's the Duggar girl, the Terry Lynn Clark, and then the dismemberment. That's why the other one, Ronnie Gaines, because he was associated, he helped with that. Why was he let out of jail? I don't know. Pat was convicted of murder and Pete of helping his brother dismember the body. The DOC would not provide an address where Pete is now living. Bradley Cooper, District Attorney General for the 22nd Judicial District, has not returned a request for information at press time Thursday. Pat remains in the Northeast Correctional Complex in Mountain City, Tennessee, according to the Tennessee Department of Corrections. He is not set for release for 53 years in June of 2069. However, he is eligible for parole before that. His first parole hearing is set for December 2019. but he's still, I guess, not been paroled, maybe. The brothers and their crimes were featured in 2014 on an episode titled Evil Twins on the Investigation Discovery Network. Sickening, isn't it? So I want to show y'all something else that I had found. The PDF, if it will come up. I think it's supposed to have been up, but it's not showing. I had it up a while ago. But to keep closing up, I'm sorry. Okay, this is his comprehensive court records report on Hugh. Gotta make sure that name come back on here. See, that's the judgment on this one right here. See on the Woodall judge's background. The Hugh Peter, which is Pete Endurant. So let me show you. I don't like how it keeps continuously closing. It shouldn't be doing that to me. So here we go right here. It does show a current address right here. I do have a paid account to a site. And I don't think that's all that far from me. Get out of here. I'm not even going to try to call any other phone numbers. It's got them listed. I don't want no part of them. I hope he changes life around. But dang, involved with 3 different murders. Is there any more? Okay, there's this where here he is. The date of birth, April 1955. 6 feet tall. Offense code, second degree murder in Giles County. Criminal second degree murder. Criminal offense not listed by source. And here is FAC second degree murder. Criminal arson. The arson is probably where he helped burn the body. I think they should have got charged as well with abuse of a corpse. What was his first name? Tammy. They got divorced. Yay, she divorced his butt. I wouldn't want to stay married to him as well. I found that little bit of information. So here we go to Hughes' case right here. Assigned on Breeze 5 December 23rd, 2008. Direct appeal from the Circuit Court for Giles County. Judgment for the Circuit Court. Let me go on down to the story so we're not going to get lost in all these names right here, okay? Petitioner, Let's see, petitioner filed a petition for writ of error coram nobis in which he asserted a claim of newly discovered evidence in the form of Pat Bondurant's statement that petitioner did not participate in the murder of Miss Duggar. On appeal, petitioner contends that the trial court erred in summarily dismissing his petition without granting him an evidentiary hearing. After a thorough review, we affirm the judgment of the trial court. He wanted to get out of that, y'all. They try to get out of it, don't they? The facts surrounding petitioner's conviction were summarized by a panel of this court in the direct appeal as follows. This case involves the homicide of Gwen Swatter Duggar. Oh, she was a Swatter. Uh, I'm wondering if that's a sister to somebody I know. On May the 30th, 1986, Ken Swanner testified that he and his sister, the victim, went to the appellant's residence to repair a car. While Mr. Swanner was working on the vehicle, the victim went into the appellant's house. After the repairs were made, Mr. Swanner walked up to the house and asked the victim if she was ready to go. The victim followed Mr. Swanner outside and informed him that she was going to stay. Mr. Swanner never saw the victim again. Approximately 1 week later, the victim's family became concerned after not hearing from the victim. Ken Swanner returned to the appellant's residence. He asked the appellant, Pat Bondurant, and his wife Denise if they knew the victim's whereabouts. They responded that they did not know. Several days later, Mr. Swanner saw the appellant, Pete Bondurant. He questioned Pete concerning the victim's whereabouts. Pete responded, I dropped her off at Shady Lawn last week. In June of '86, Jack Swanner and Ken Swanner embarked on another effort to locate the victim. While en route to the appellant's residence, they observed Pete Bondurant on the interstate. They followed Pete to a nightclub. So that Pete is, yep. The Swanners confronted Pete. Pete stated, I didn't kill her. Ain't done nothing. Leave me alone. I'm crazy. The club's owner came outside and told them to break it up. Pete then backed into the nightclub yelling he was crazy, that he had killed once. He'd kill again. The Swanners left. Can you believe that? He actually said, I had killed once. I'll kill again. Now, usually when I hear something like that out of some of the people that they had killed in the military or something, and that was it. But for them, this is worse. In 1990, investigator William Coleman approached Denise Bondurant. Denise was separated from the appellant, Pat Bondurant. She stated that she was afraid Pat would hurt someone else. Therefore, she gave investigator Coleman a statement concerning the victim's death. She was later given immunity from prosecution. Okay, I was wondering why she wasn't charged. Now we know why, right? Denise Bondurant testified that on May the 30th, '86, she, Pat Bondurant, Pete Bondurant, Dwayne Howell, and Gary Hardin were all present at the Bondurant's residence when the victim and her brother arrived. Denise stated that the victim walked up to the house and purchased Valium from the appellant, Pat Bondurant. She testified that although Ken Swanner wanted the victim to leave with him, the victim decided to stay and party. She stated that everyone there was drinking and doing drugs except for her. She attributed her abstinence to her pregnancy. Later in the evening, Denise testified that Pat told her to put on some steaks. She stated that the victim attempted to assist her. However, the victim was so intoxicated she could barely even stand up. In addition to the Valium and beer, Denise stated that Pete had given her some Placidules. Denise stated that Gary Hardin was trying to make a pass at the victim while they were in the kitchen. Pat, however, came into the kitchen carrying a .38 caliber pistol. She testified that Pat said, if anyone's getting hurt, Pete's going to have her first because he had bought her drugs. Pete then took the victim into the bathroom. Denise stated that she saw the victim performing fellatio on Pete in the bathroom. Denise testified that later Dwayne came back into the kitchen and I felt like he was trying to keep me in there, that he was stalling, for conversation. She stated that she became suspicious of what was going on in the front of the house. She stated that she went up front and noticed that the bedroom door was closed. Although Gary was holding the door shut from the inside, she forced her way in and found Pat having sex with the victim. She stated that she hit both Pat and the victim, gathered up some clothes, and left. Gary Hardin testified that after Denise left, he and Pete got the victim up, they carried her while nude outside and put her in a car. They then drove her down to the barn. He testified that the victim was messed up and mumbling. Gary stated that after the victim was taken to the barn, he, Pete, and Dwayne all had sex with her. Dwayne testified that when they finished with the victim, they left her lying in the barn and went to the house to eat. Patricia Howell Love testified that she worked at a strip bar across the street from the Bondurant's residence. She stated that on the evening of May the 30th, 1986, Pete entered the club and said he had a whore tied up to a bale of hay if anybody needed a good F. Wow. Denise testified that after she left the house, she drove to the interstate and headed toward Alabama. When she got to the Ardmore-Huntsville exit, she turned around and headed back home. Denise returned to the house and found that Gary and Dwayne had not left. She again instructed them to leave. They then left. Denise walked to the house and found that the victim had been brought back up to the house from the barn. Denise stated that she walked into the room where the victim lay nude on a mattress. She tried to wake her by nudging her with her foot. She stated that the victim was unresponsive, so she started smacking her in the face, trying to get her awake. She stated that the victim started coming to, but described the victim as groggy. As the victim regained consciousness, Denise began accusing the victim of having sex with her husband, Pat. The victim denied the allegations. She couldn't remember she was drugged, right? Denise stated that right then she saw that the victim was not aware of what had happened. Denise stated that she hit the victim. She, however, described the victim as being helpless and unable to defend herself, so Denise stepped out of the way. Denise then described the victim's murder. She stated that Pat walked in from the back of the house. He was carrying a big stick or axe handle. She stated that Pat told her to use the stick on the victim. Denise responded, "Pat, look at her. I don't need that." Pat then said, "We'll do it for you." Denise testified that Pat began the assault by striking the victim on top of the head with an axe handle. She stated that she saw blood on both the victim and the weapon. She stated that Pat then hit her a second time. The victim fell to her knees. Denise testified that she told Pat to please stop before you hurt her really bad. However, as the victim was attempting to rise, Pat struck her again. She believed that the third blow was to the victim's side. She stated that the blow to the side flung the victim across the room. She estimated that Pat administered 9 to 12 blows to the victim. After Pat ceased striking the victim with the axe handle, he began having sexual intercourse with her again. All bloodied and everything. Denise stated that he raped the victim vaginally and anally. Pat made the statement to Pete that the victim was peeing like it was something really funny to him. Denise, that means she was dying. She peed. She had no control. The victim began losing her bowel on him, after which Pat also commented. After climaxing, Pat offered the victim to Pete. Denise stated that Pete turned it down. She then testified that she told Pat he ought to get cleaned up before someone were to come up and, catch him like this. He had blood and her bowel movement all over him. Pat went to the bathroom to take a bath and Denise followed. Denise testified that while Pat was bathing, Pete entered the bathroom carrying a .22 caliber revolver. Pete said he was going to put the victim out of her misery. She stated that Pete walked into the room where the victim lay unconscious. Denise then heard 2 shots. She stated that Pete returned to the bathroom and removed 2 spent cartridges from the gun. So Pete, the one that got out of jail, went in there and did that to her. Denise then walked into the room where the victim lay. She looked down at the victim and saw 2 gunshot wounds in the victim's head, one to the right temple and one between her eyes. Denise also testified that she saw movement in the victim's body following the gunshot wounds. Denise stated that Pete left the house and came back with some large trash bags. She stated that Pete began bagging the victim's body with lime in the large trash bags, then began cleaning, blood splattering from the walls, floor, and ceiling. They gathered the mattress, cushion, carpeting, couch, chair, victim's clothes, and other items covered with the victim's blood. These items were burned in a backyard pit. Later, the axe handle was also burned. The victim's body was loaded onto a trailer and towed by a three-wheeler. They took the victim's body to a secluded area. Denise testified that they stuffed the victim's body head first into a 55-gallon drum. We know another case about drums being used, and it makes me wonder if such and such is dead and they had done this certain way. You know who we're talking about without saying names. She also stated that they placed rubber matting inside the barrel to increase the fire's temperature. She testified that the appellants used a hammer and nails to perforate the bottom of the barrel to increase the airflow. They poured kerosene on the victim and just set a fire. They stated that after the fire was set, they sat there and watched her flesh burn off the bones of her feet. Later, they went out to eat. After all that, they still went out and ate? No common. Oh, man. No empathy, sympathy, or nothing. Disgusting. And he's out of jail, one of them? After eating, they returned to the location of the victim's burning body. Denise stated that the victim was then dumped from the barrel. Denise described the victim as follows. Her legs were burnt up past her knees, and her whole body was just looked like her. Flesh was all wrinkled, and you could still see that her head had some hair. Because the victim was not burning fast enough, they let the victim out of the barrel so it could get more air to burn a little bigger fire. Denise testified that they continually added wood and rubber to the fire. She stated that they burned the victim from Friday night until Sunday afternoon. Wow. She further stated that Pat used a shovel to chop up little sections and crush bones that they had already burned. Oh my gosh. Wow. She stated that they were just some round pieces of bone and chunks of bone that Pat would just smack down with a shovel. Denise stated they shoveled the victim's ashes, more lime, and topsoil from the fire pit into the drum. The drum was loaded onto their truck and transported to the Elk River. Pat then disposed of the victim's cremated remains by pouring the mixture of ashes, lime, and topsoil from the barrel into the river. Wayne Howell testified. He stated that a few days after the May 30th, 86 party, Pat and Denise Bondurant stopped by his house. He testified that Pat had wanted to know if anybody had come around asking any questions. Howell responded that he didn't know what Pat was talking about. He testified that Pat then responded, well, if you know what's good for you, if anybody comes over asking questions, you don't know anything. Gary Hardin testified that he saw Pete shortly after May the 30th, 86 party. He stated that Pete said, you ain't seen nothing up there that night. Hardin further testified that approximately 1 year later, Pete approached him and said, like I said, you ain't seen nothing, and they ain't got a case without a body. Investigator Coleman testified that he stated that in 1990 they excavated a pit in the appellant's backyard. There he discovered a partially burned high-top tennis shoe. He stated that a pink diaper pin was attached to the shoe. Investigators also found springs, remnants of carpet, and other household materials in the pit. Patricia Howell Love testified. She stated that she was familiar with the peculiarity of the victim's mode of dress. She stated that the victim always wore either a pink or blue baby's diaper pin attached to her high-top tennis shoes. She also testified that Pete Bondurant said the victim wouldn't be back, and you can't make a case without a body. She further stated that Pete made a statement that he could get out of it because he was crazy. Mrs. Love's testimony also revealed that she was calmly addressed by the childhood name Snow. Pete, however, referred to her as his little Snowby. She testified that following the victim's death, Pete carried around two 22 caliber shells that he referred to as Gwenbys, meaning he kept them as a souvenir. He kept the shells. Wow. He stated that he would roll the Gwenbys in his hand like dice, or he would put them on the table and play with them like a shell game. The term Gwenbys and Gwenbees are used interchangeably throughout the record. For purposes of consistency, we'll refer to the shell casings as Gwenbys. Inmate Billy Dwayne Golden testified. He stated that while he and the appellant, Pete Bondurant, were in jail, Pete spoke with him regarding the victim's death. Mr. Golden stated that Pete told him they would never convict him of murder where there wasn't no body, and he took care of the body. He burned it in a 50 or 100-gallon barrel feed drum. He had properly disposed of the remains. He told me he took care of that beast, the victim. Mr. Golden also testified that Pete told him that he and Pat would pin the murder on Denise Bondurant. Mr. Golden further testified that he overheard Pete in a phone conversation say not to do anything to Denise right now, he said. They couldn't handle another stiff on their hands. The TVA agent was freaked. State versus Kenneth Patterson Bondurant and Hugh Peter Bondurant. Right there. On August 1st, 2006, petitioner filed a pro se petition for writ of error cora nobis, in which he alleged that Pat Bondurant had recently revealed to petitioner that Pat Bondurant's wife, Denise Bondurant, shot Miss Duggar. Pat Bondurant stated in the affidavit attached to the petition that Pete Bondurant was passed out on his medication when my wife shot Gwen Duggar. I did not tell petitioner about Denise shooting Miss Duggar because I wanted to protect my children's mother. No, because you were lying. You're trying to put the blame on her where y'all could get away with doing it. That's what y'all were doing. Attached to Pat Bondurant's affidavit was a letter written to Governor Phil Bredesen on August 5, 2005, in which Pat Bondurant requested favorable consideration of petitioner's request for parole. Wow. In this letter, Pat Bondurant stated, after catching me in bed having sex with Gwen Duggar, my wife Denise Bondurant shot and killed Gwen. Denise shot Gwen in the head in a dead range. Petitioner was taking psychotropic medication and was asleep when my wife shot Gwen. The psychotropic medication petitioner was put in a deep stupor. I did not even attempt to wake up after Denise shot Gwen. After Denise killed Gwen, I chose my wife and family over my twin brother. I knew that petitioner would rat Denise out. So what I did along with Denise was load up Gwen's body and take it to the family's home in West Point, Tennessee. We burned Gwen's body up. See different stories. Pat Bondurant, who is currently on death row for the murder of another individual, acknowledged that his letter would probably hinder any future pleas for clemency. Pat Bondurant, however, stated that he could no longer live with the betrayal of my brother. Pat Bondurant stated, I admitted to part of the above at my sentencing hearing in 1991, but never had the courage to tell the whole story before. In this error coram nobis petition, petitioner contended that his evidence was not available to him at the time of the trial because his brother invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination at their joint trial, and that the results of the trial may have been different had the jury been informed of this evidence. The state filed a response to the petition, arguing that the petition was filed outside the applicable one-year statute of limitations. In addition, the state submitted that the petition did not present newly discovered evidence which might have affected the verdict, and contended that in any event, the proffered evidence was not credible. The trial court appointed counsel to represent petitioner and conducted a hearing on the petition on July 27, 2007. Before any witnesses were called to testify, however, the trial court addressed the state's challenge to the timeliness of the petition's filing. After argument of counsel, the trial court found no due process concerns which required the tolling of the limitations period. In addition, the trial court found that even if petitioner were allowed to proceed with his quorum nobis claim, the alleged newly discovered evidence was not such as might have produced a different result in the trial. Trial court thus summarily dismissed the petition. Thank you. So we're going on further up, Okay. So we go past that. So now we know what basically happened in that one. So here's with the case of the brother, right? See if there's any difference right here. Okay. Case involves a homicide of Gwen Duggar. This goes and states the same facts right here. See, and that's where Denise testified that of what all happened here. So they were going to pin it on her. It's just sickening, isn't it, y'all? They even went out to eat. I think he's basically mad at her for divorcing. Also, it goes on and on down here, don't it? So anyway, they denied the petition, which they wanted to get out of jail early, and it was denied. But my question is, how would they let somebody as sick as him out of jail? Why did they do that? It is sick. It's crazy. Oh boy, that's one case. I gotta find out exactly where that Wood Street is, where they claim that he lives. I like to see how he looked today, so if I run into him at a grocery store or something. This is scary and this is crazy, everyone. Waiting on that to catch up at YouTube. It's acting slow. It's very sad, isn't it? Seems like that's taken a while to show what I had showed. Because I'm looking at my YouTube now and I'm like, what, it's still over there? So y'all be sure to put hearts up for the people, for this Duggar and her family. She did not deserve all this. Some people, yes, they do drugs, they take drugs, and after later on, they end up getting off drugs. And yet, I think that when he was beating her like that, beat her with an axe, I basically think after he raped her, when she, peed and all that and everything, and lost her bowels, I think she was dying then. I really do. I think she was already dead when she got shot. Like he was trying to make sure. They were trying to cover up for their crime of raping her repeatedly. Makes you wonder how many other people that was on drugs that come to their house that they raped as well. Got slowly. So y'all please put hearts up for the family and for all these involved. And y'all please put hearts up for the family for all these. I can't believe he's out of prison either. All this horrible. The lengths that they went, dismembering. He had even killed somebody else prior, and then he helped his brother with a co-worker. Helped him dismember in a bathtub. They dismembered the co-worker in a bathtub. How sick is that? I listened to the case, somebody's radio blog, and that's how I heard that. But if y'all can, try to look up the story on YouTube on other people telling the story. I want to say God bless y'all. Y'all have a great day, okay? Thank you so much. Love y'all bunches. God bless.